So we've learned how to add data to Firebase Firestore and also fetch the data from Firebase Firestore. But what if the user wants to edit his information? Let's say I want to change my name. I don't want the name I had before. I want to change it, or I want to update my buyer information. How do we do that? So in this video, we will talk about that. How to update Firebase Firestore data successfully without ruining the other data that was added before. So let's switch back to our project. Here, this is where we left off in the last video. We successfully fetched the user data and we displayed it in the phone. But in this video, we will talk about the how to update data. The random ID still poses a challenge because when you're updating data, because of the random ID, you don't really know what you're searching for, or you don't really know the path to the data that the user stored it. So we need to find a way to fix that. So here I am going to call a string document ID, and this document ID will be this will be used for I beg your pardon. Document ID will be used for getting the documents ID, the random ID that I showed you earlier in the Firebase console. So here I will initialize the document ID to the document snapshot dot get ID. That should give me the exact ID of the document. And now, since we have that ID, we can go straight to the path where the user data is. Remember, this is where we send an intent to the other activity to set the text for the save information button to either edit account info or save it. But here I will put in something else because I want to be able to detect. I want to send the document ID to the other activity so that when we are retrieving the data, we know, or when we're retrieving or updating, we know what we are doing exactly, the path to the data. So there it is. I'll call it doc ID. Then head over to the setup activity and then receive that intent. I'll give another line and then call a second incoming intent, but this time I won't call it incoming. So I'll just say get doc ID, that's get document ID, string there equals the get intent dot get string extra. The extra was called doc ID. I'll make it a global variable so I can access it anywhere within the class. Cut it there and take it to the top and make it as private, then get doc ID. That's something I'm searching for. That's still giving an error. I'm sure it will be resolved soon. Yeah, it's done. So what I want to do at this point is to fire up a boolean because I want to know if the user is actually editing his preferred information or setting up his preferred information. So I'll set up a boolean and I'll give the default value of true. So that means when the user is editing his information, the boolean will be set to true. If it's not, then it's false. I'll initialize it here. Is editing equals to true? Oh no, false. Yes, because it is setting up his accounts. So if is editing, then it will be true. So I'll go to the button that I said I'll click listener on. Then I'll cut the code that's inside and write an if statement to check if the user is actually editing his profile. Because if the user is editing his profile, then we don't need the doc ID. But if the user is setting up his, if the user is, what am I saying? If the user is editing his profile, then we need the doc ID. But if the user is setting up, we don't need it. That's why we're checking if the user is actually editing or setting up the profile for the first time. I'll just paste the code in the else block there. Now, if the user is editing, I will call a method called edit. The method will almost be the same, just that I'll change a few things and also the name of the method to edit. I'll still grab the text from the users and create the method edit. Oops, what am I doing? So I'll copy everything in the create accounts or set up accounts method and then paste it inside the edit method, then change a few things. See, before we had add method, but here I am going to change it to update. In fact, I'm going to delete everything and then write it all over again. So the path is users, then the documents is that random ID. But since we have the random ID now, so we can just specify where is the, oh, sorry, I missed. Okay, yeah. So inside the documents, I'll put in the get doc ID, which is the random ID that was generated by Firebase, and then I'll say sets. If I use sets, sets will go over to the database and delete everything and then put in the new information. But I don't want to do that. I just want to update the information. So I'll use the update method. And it's always good to check if the task was complete by calling the onComplete listener interface, and also checking if the task failed by calling the onFailure listener interface. So I copied the code that I had before, say paste it inside. It's the same thing, same thing. You can check it out. Same thing, just sends the user to the account activity if the task was successful. And then for error handling, we'll just say error and then print the exception out by using by writing e.get message. So that's actually responsible for fetching the ID, but I'll delete it off. Check if the task was actually successful first. It's always good to do that, and then paste it back again. Cut that out, we don't need that. I'll dismiss the progress bar there and also copy it to the on failure listener, so to also dismiss the progress bar when there's an error. So I think everything is done now. We are done. It's time to test our application to see if everything works correctly, which I'm sure it will. So here my application is currently running, so I'll click on the edit info screen, and here I will put in some new info. Day worker, and I'll just type in a random age 88. In the about section, I will say hey Crystal, just for testing. So I'll click the edit account info, set up accounts, and done. The account has been edited, and yeah, called it. The data was actually retrieved. So let's look at our database there. So here I'm in my database, and there you see the information changes, and we still have the random ID there. So that's it guys for this tutorial. If you have any question, ask me, and I think I'll see you in the next video.